This is The Arm of the Starfish by Madeleine. I'll be reading chapter 6. Callie came in. She was dressed for evening, and Adam drew in his breath sharply because he had forgotten how beautiful she was. Her shimmering hair was drawn softly back in a full filigreed gold tiara. Her dress, of a material that Adam, being a boy, could not place, was the color of champagne. Her feet were in gold sandals. She gave him a scowl which managed not to wrinkle her brow. "And about time, too," she said, going over to the octagonal table and sitting in one of the easy chairs. "Now tell me everything." Adam sat on the side of his rumpled bed. "You seem to know everything already." Callie sighed with resignation. "I know your plane was rerouted to Madrid. I know you didn't get to Lisbon till tonight. I saw O'Keefe come into the embassy and go off with the ambassador. I happened to walk by the door of the library, looking for the ladies' room, when O'Keefe mentioned his child. That was a lucky break, hearing that. It gave me some idea of what we were up against and how I can help you. Get dressed and I'll take you to Daddy." "To help me find Polymnia?" "Of course. But why me? Why didn't you go right to Dr. O'Keefe?" Callie sighed again. "Adam, you are really very slow. It's in O'Keefe's own interest that the child be gone. Don't you see he's in on the whole thing? What we have to do is get her to Daddy. Then he'll take care of everything." "Okay, I'm slow," Adam said. "But even not enough sleep, that's logic know-how contrary-wise. Why under the sun would Dr. O'Keefe be in on kidnapping of his own daughter? Why under the sun would Dr. O'Keefe be in on the kidnapping of his own daughter?" Callie got up and went to the one uncurtained, unshuttered window and stood looking out. "Adam, my sweet, you aren't in your little backwash of a woods hole now, or in your ivory tower of school. This is Lisbon." "Lisbon!" "Yes," Adam said. "I figured it might be. Has it never occurred to you that we do not live in one world, that there are certain nations interested in the private businesses of other nations? If this primary fact has never occurred to you, living in New York, and for heaven's sake, kid, haven't you ever even taken a tour through the UN? It can hardly escape you in any of the capitals of Europe. Don't you know we're in a war, Adam? Aren't you aware of it?" Adam had taken his college boards in modern European history, but that was history. Callie continued. "Of course his going to the embassy was a front, and a rather clever one, I must admit that. But never make the mistake of thinking Dr. O'Keefe's a fool. He isn't. What he wants to do is keep the child out of the way until... And he's ruthless, Adam. If something happens to her, then something happens to her. When I think of Daddy and me, well, O'Keefe just gives me the shudders. Now come on, Adam. Get dressed and let's go. I hope I have made myself clear." "As mud," Adam said, "but I'll get dressed. Let me take a quick shower. It'll help me wake up a bit." It seemed he had been doing nothing but take showers to wake up since the bus had taken him to the Plaza Hotel in Madrid. When Adam and Callie emerged onto the sidewalk, dawn was beginning to lighten the sky. The dim street lamps became even dimmer. The rain had stopped, but the air was wet and heavy. A dark limousine was waiting in the courtyard of the hotel, and Callie walked quickly toward it. A uniformed chauffeur climbed out and opened the door for them. "Take us home, Malek, please," Callie said. She sat back in the upholstered seat as though she were very tired. "I don't know why I'm taking so much trouble about you, Adam. I really don't." "Well, why are you, then?" Adam demanded. "Not for your own sake, I assure you. At least not to start out with, I wasn't. But you're like a half-grown puppy. There's something endearing about your clumsiness. I have to admit that I am doing it for you, too. But that's wrong, of course." "Wrong?" "Adam, we simply cannot let people matter to us, or we won't get anywhere. Letting people matter is nothing but sentimentality." "Then I have become rather quickly sentimental about Polymnia, Adam thought. "Only there's something wrong here. Sentimental is not the right word. If only I could have slept a few hours longer. He tried unsuccessfully to stifle a yawn. Callie put a hand on his arm. I am sorry I had to wake you up, but don't you see? But you see. But you do see, don't you, how desperately urgent it is? Yes, he saw. There was something wrong with this, too. The limousine drove a narrow and winding way. Some streets were barely wide enough for the car. Others were as steep as San Francisco. They went under arches, into streets wide enough for buses, under more arches, into alleys, finally drawing up before a whitewashed wall. The chauffeur, Molek, got out and opened the door, and Adam climbed out after Callie. She opened a gate in the wall and went down a steep flight of steps to a pale pink house with a deeper pink door, which she unlocked. As she shut the door behind them, she held her finger to her lips and took Adam down a softly carpeted hall. The room into which she led him was already beginning to fill with light, which flooded in from the great sweep of windows overlooking the harbor and the dawn. The view was so enormous that at first Adam did not notice the room itself, a room striking in stark blacks and whites. The long wall of windows was curtainless, but the opposite wall was hung with black velvet. Against the background of the velvet was only one thing, a picture, an unframed portrait, for the great sweep of velvet was the frame, of the most handsome young man Adam had ever seen. It was a young man with the bearing of an angel, hair the same pale gold as Callie's, heavily fringed eyes, the mouth slightly opened, as though in eagerness to meet life. Adam, Callie said, and he turned from the portrait to follow her across the black marble floor. Silhouetted against the dawn was the dark figure of a man who stood motionless, staring out across the bay. A man big in both height and bulk. Daddy, Callie said, and the man turned around. Because he stood between Adam and the light, he was still only a silhouette, as he stretched out his hand in greeting. Adam, you're safely here. He took the boy's hand in a grip of steel. His voice was high and light for the bulk of his body, but it too had the quality of steel, the steel of a spool of fine wire. He dropped Adam's hand and crossed to a desk made of a great slab of black and white marble, and he sat in a black leather chair, leaning back so that at last the light struck his face. It was a powerful face. There were pouches of fatigue under the dark eyes, and the thin lips were closed in tight control. He impatiently pushed back a strand of thinning pale gold hair. Involuntarily, Adam glanced at the portrait. That's Daddy, Callie said with pride. Wasn't he beautiful? The man laughed. Yes, nothing of a Dorian Gray about Typhoon Cutter is there, Adam. I am marked by the inroads of time and experience. And this is something you lack, is it not? I'm getting it, Adam said wearily. And learning from it? I hope so. Typhon Cutter looked thoughtfully at the portrait. The years make their marks on ordinary hard-working mortals, and I can assure you that my work is hard. And now you have become part of it. He looked at the portrait to Adam, from the portrait to Adam, and Adam looked back, saying nothing, swaying slightly with fatigue. Typhon Cutter picked up a black marble paperweight and appeared to study it. He crossed his legs, and as he did this, Adam realized that although the great body was ponderous with weight, the arms and the legs were thin and bony, but again giving the effect of steel. Typhon Cutter, sitting at his desk in a black satin dressing gown, was one of the most extraordinary men Adam had ever seen. Tired? Cutter asked in his surprising tenor voice. Yes, sir, I haven't had much sleep. Typhon Cutter motioned to a stiff ebony chair on the opposite side of the desk. You may sit there as long as you stay awake. I am sorry to not be able to let you sleep, but there's no time now for anything but business, and we do have business, you and I. In a daze of fatigue, Adam staggered to the chair. Typhon Cutter leaned across the desk and snapped his fingers in the boy's face. Wake up! Sorry, Adam mumbled. Callie, see about coffee. Yes, Daddy. In quick and loving obedience, Callie slipped from the room. Now, Adam. Sir. How much has Callie told you? That you'll help me find Polly, Dr. O'Keefe's daughter. Typhon Cutter nodded for a moment, speaking almost absently. Yes, we'll cope with that. Then sharply, wake up! What else? About what, sir? How much has Callie told you? Perhaps you may have thought that she seemed a little wild or even a little hysterical, but she never does so without cause. I didn't think she seemed hysterical, sir. Good boy. I assume she warned you about Tallis and O'Keefe? Yes, sir. Did you take her warning seriously? Mr. Cutter, I'm too confused to know what to think. I'm too tired. Again, the finger snapped in Adam's face. Wake up! Why did you come with Callie now, then? Because I have to find Polyhim. Yes, all right, Adam. Try to stay awake while we get down to business. You are to be working as a laboratory assistant to Dr. O'Keefe this summer. Yes, sir. O'Keefe is a great scientist. In that respect, you are very privileged. Yes, sir. Adam responded automatically, without knowing that each time Typhon Cutter paused, he was expected. Yes, sir, Adam responded automatically, knowing that each time Typhon Cutter paused, he was expected to make a response to prove that he was awake and that he was listening. Do you know what your work will be? I mean by that, do you know the experiment O'Keefe is involved in? I believe it's the regenerative process of the arm of the starfish, sir. Explain yourself. Well, if a starfish loses an arm, it can simply grow one back. How? That's the point. No one knows. I mean, the starfish is still pretty much a mystery even to people who know the most about it. That is true. I, for instance, know as much about starfish as any layman, and I am the first to admit that this is not much. But I fancy you'll find that the starfish is less of an enigma to O'Keefe than anybody else in the world. The door opened and Callie came in, followed by a white-jacketed servant bearing a silver tray, which he set down on the desk. Typhon Cutter waited until the door was closed again. Then he picked up a silver coffee pot and poured. He handed a cup across the desk to Adam. I don't know how you usually drink it, but this time I don't know how you usually drink it, but this time it will have to be black. You must wake up. Sorry, sir. All right, Adam, now tell me something. If O'Keefe is learning new things about the regenerative process of the arm of the starfish, why is this of such great importance? Well, sir, in the evolutionary scale, man comes pretty directly from the starfish. Go on. Well, man is a member of phylum Chordata, and we developed directly from the phylum Echinodermata, or the starfish. We both had an interior spinal column and the same kind of body cavities. Typhon Cutter pressed his thin, strong fingertips together, nodding in satisfaction. Good. Of course one goes on the assumption that if O'Keefe is willing to employ you, you must have a certain amount of intelligence. Let us proceed to the next step. What is the implication of O'Keefe's experiments? Well, sir, that anything he finds out about the starfish might also apply to people. Callie perched on the arm of her father's chair. Why? Just because we have the same great-great-grandpappy? I should think you need more than that. You do, Adam told her. We have the same kind of complex nervous system, and we're the only ones who do. Echinoderms and chordates, people and starfish. So? Typhon Cutter asked. So if someone could find out how the starfish regenerates, then maybe this knowledge could be used for man. But, no buts, Typhon Cutter said. Don't try to evade what you've said. The implications are so staggering that most people will tend to turn away from them or refuse to face them. You're a bright boy, Adam, and a brave one, or you wouldn't be here in this room now. You can be of help to mankind, if you will. Adam's mind was gritty with fatigue, but he said, I think I have to know how I am to help. A perfectly reasonable attitude. Callie has perhaps told you something about me? That you have business concerns in Portugal. And Typhon Cutter reached across the desk and poured more coffee into Adam's cup. That you know a great many people at the embassy. There's the key, boy. My business is business, and a very lucrative one, I might add. But it is also more than business. Just as you are in a position to be useful to me, I am in a position to be useful to the embassy. More than that, I have been asked by Washington to assist the embassy and to keep my eye on a group there whose loyalty is not entirely unquestioned. There is nothing I care about more than my country, and I hope I am not wrong in assuming that you feel the same way. Well, of course, sir, Adam started and stopped, abruptly, listening. From somewhere deep in the house, he thought he heard a faint, thin wail, a child's wail.